Check. 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 Did you check the mic?
Yeah, I did.
All right, I better go take care of my needs.
I'm good.
Try that again. Good morning. Good morning. There we go. Welcome to Kitsap Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. Whoever you are, wherever you have come from, for this hour, we here are one gathered congregation, and all are welcome. Let's start today's service by enjoying the musical call to worship, Star Wheel, which will be sung by our choir. My name is Brian Watson, and I use he, him pronouns. I am a 55-year-old man with a mostly bald head, clean-shaven face, and I wear glasses. This morning, I'm wearing a light cream-colored button-down shirt with a tie that we decided in the choir was tomatoes. So, I've been a part of KUUF for over 25 years. I sing in the choir, I play drums, I serve on the Compassionate Communications team, the nominating committee, and I am the chair of the Building and Grounds Committee. KUUF is a vital and essential part of my life, and it is so good to be here to worship with you this morning together. Our guest speaker this morning is Reverend Carol McKinley. Welcome, Carol. Reverend Carol is a frequent speaker at KUUF and is an affiliated community minister at Olympic Unitarian Universalist Congregation. Welcome, Reverend Carol. Thank you for being here. If you are visiting this morning, please participate however you feel comfortable. Just for FYI, for sensory needs, we have things like fidget toys, we have rocking chairs, and the Elmore room, which is out these doors and that way to your, that way. It's my right, but it's your left. Anyway, on your right as you go out the doors. If you feel like you need to just remove yourself from the sanctuary for whatever reason, there is a TV in there that streams our service, just like you see in here. We also have assisted listening devices if you need one. If you do need one, just alert one of our ushers and they will help you out. Today you're also invited to stay after the service and meet some new friends during our coffee hour. Many members of our congregation are actually not in this room right now. They are streaming our service in YouTube land. Welcome, everybody. Let's hold them in our sanctuary this morning as well. More announcements about Kitsap Unitarian Universalist Fellowship activities are available in our weekly email newsletter, The Candle. You can sign up for The Candle out in the foyer to get those. Let's now take a moment to silence any electronic devices that you don't need during the next hour together. And please join me now in taking a few centering breaths. We acknowledge that the land on which we gather is the Aboriginal territory of the Suquamish people. Expert fishermen, canoe builders, and basket weavers, the Suquamish live in harmony with the lands and waterways along Washington's Central Salish Sea, as they have for thousands of years. Here, the Suquamish live and protect the land and waters of their ancestors for future generations, as promised by the Point Elliott Treaty of 1855.
Good morning. I'm Reverend Carol McKinley. I use she, her pronouns, and I have white hair. I'm wearing red rim glasses, a blue jacket, and in honor of the recently arrived spring, my stole has all of the plants and creatures that are common here in the Pacific Northwest as we enter this beautiful time of year. And although you can't see it, I'm wearing a leg brace, the result of black ice in February. And although I can get around just fine, I have to wear it until April, so it does occasion some comments. So once again, welcome, and welcome to spring. Our opening words are from the Reverend David Breeden. Welcome all to this place of love and justice, this place where we attempt to live up to humanity's highest ideals, its highest hopes. Do we fail? Yes, we do, often. Do we try again? Yes, we do, always. Because we are people who, looking out for each other, all others, and this planet we share. Welcome all to this place of love and justice, to this gathering where the sacred and the holy are our being together. Once again, welcome, and welcome to spring.
Thank you, Reverend Carol. Now we're going to light our chalice, and I'd like to welcome Jerry Butler to come forward and light our chalice this morning. Jerry has been coming to KUUF since 2007. He is a board member. He sings in the choir, chairs the Safe Congregations Committee, and is on the pastoral care team. Jerry coordinates our KUUF Safety Monitor program, where at least one safety monitor is present at each Sunday service to cover all areas related to safety, such as first aid, being a compassionate listener, and so forth. If you are interested in being a safety monitor, you can reach out to Jerry. Join me now in lighting our chalice. If you have your own chalice or candle at home, please light it as I read our chalice lighting words. With faith to face our challenges, with love that casts out fear, with hope to trust tomorrow, we accept this day as the gift it is, a reason for rejoicing. Now please join me in our spoken affirmation. The words will appear on the screen. We gather as a caring community, seeking life's deeper meanings. We value diversity and affirm the worth of all living things. We strive to speak truth in love, to act for justice, to grow in spirit, and to care for the earth. We celebrate with open hearts and minds the creative power that sustains and transforms us. And please rise in body or in spirit to join in singing hymn number 131, Love Will Guide Us, in the gray hymnal. The words will also appear on the screen.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. My name is Melinda. I have red hair, black glasses, and I'm wearing a blue shirt with some pink patterns on it this morning. All month, we have been exploring how we can practice trust. And today, I want to share a story with you about fixing broken trust. Once upon a time, long, long ago in a Japanese village, there was an old pot that had been passed down through generations. One day, a child from a family who owned the pot was playing with it when they weren't supposed to, and they dropped it. The pot hit the floor, it cracked, losing its ability to hold water. The child picked up the pieces and tried to hide them because they knew they weren't supposed to be playing with it in the first place. For days, the family searched for the pot, and eventually, the child brought out the pieces and explained what had happened. Their family was furious. "How can we ever trust you again?" they asked the child. And they brought the pieces outside to throw away. A village elder happened to be watching and asked that they give the pot to him instead, for he was sure he could fix it. The family handed over the pieces, but doubted that the pot could ever be restored to its former state. What the family didn't know was that the elder had been trained in the traditional Japanese art of repairing broken pottery with a lacquer mixed with gold. The elder worked patiently, ensuring that each crack was carefully mended. After several days of painstaking effort, the pot was restored to its original shape. Though the cracks were still visible, the pot was now stronger than ever before. The elder returned the pot and explained to the family, "I know you're mad, but remember, trust is like this pot. Yes, it can crack and sometimes be broken, but we have the power within us to fix those cracks. And if done well, the pot can end up being even stronger and more beautiful than before." And then the wise elder mysteriously handed the child his special brush and the parents his jar of paint. In the week and days ahead, as we deal with things we've broken, may all of us, kids and adults alike, remember this elder's brush and golden paint. Trust that when well repaired, what was once broken can be stronger and more beautiful than it was before.
Thank you, Melinda. As a religious community, together we can do the work of many. By sharing in the sacred act of giving, we transform gratitude into generosity towards our mission. One way our mission inspires us to act on our shared UU values is to share our weekly offering with a local nonprofit agency providing services within our larger community. Our charitable giving recipient for the month of March is the Kitsap Black Student Union. In a moment, our ushers will move among us with baskets to collect the offering. If this is your first time at KUUF, please feel free to let the basket pass. Your presence is your gift. If you would like your offering to go to KUUF, please use the envelope from your order of service. If you would like your offering to go to this month's charitable giving recipient, Kitsap Black Student Union, please just put your donation directly in the basket. Instructions on other ways to make your gift, including a QR code, will be on the screen. Let there be an offering to strengthen and sustain our beloved community with a gift of music from music coordinator Brian Kinney and the KUUF choir led by Alina Hemingway.
That was beautiful. I found myself smiling the whole time. It was just lovely. Please now rise in body or spirit and join together as we sing our children off to their time together.
Now is the time for the sharing of our joys and sorrows. When shared together, our joys are amplified, and when shared, our sorrows are lessened. We have one big joy today. The Sterica family has a new member. Devin Ray Sterica was born at 3:37 p.m. on the first day of spring, March 20th. He weighed 7 pounds, 8 ounces, and was 20 inches long. Delivery went smoothly, and mama and baby are healthy and recovering well. Welcome, sweet baby Devin. And that's from Bunny Sterica. Huge joy to their family. And we light one last candle for joys and sorrows that are still in our hearts, still too tender to share. Please join me in a moment of prayer or intention. Let us pause to remember who we are. Companions on this grand experiment called life. When we take a moment to shed the ways we have been carefully taught, to lead from fear, to punish the poor, to persecute those who don't look like we do, to deny rights to those who love, to believe that we are separate, that some people are superior to others. When we take a moment to shed all that, and hear the stories, hear and see each other into existence, into community. When we take a moment to practice a different way of being, when we answer the call of love, then we are living into the promise of building the world we dream of. Please remain seated as we sing hymn number 123, Spirit of Life. The words will appear on your screen. Our first reading today is called Psalm 10 for the Restoration of Justice by Barbara Gibson. This is her version of the Hebrew Scriptures, Psalm 10, from her book, Psalms for Troubled Times, Prayers of Hope and Challenge. With arrogance, the powerful exploit the poor. Let them be caught in their own dire schemes. The wealthy boast, and the greedy ignore goodness because they think they are invulnerable. They prosper without fear of punishment. They believe their power will last forever. The powerful oppress and torture the weak. They imprison and kill those who oppress them, who oppose them. They lie about how they have ruined the earth and threatened the rights of the people. They lie about the importance of idols like wealth. They practice genocide and war. Rise up, people, with truth and justice. Lift your strong hands against oppression. Tell the rulers, we see the evil you have done. We see the suffering of the children and the poor. We will listen to the voices of the forgotten and strengthen the hearts of the distressed. Let us commit ourselves to the defense of the suffering. We will break the grip of arrogance and power.
Thank you, Brian. Our second reading is This Act of Faith by the Reverend Gretchen Haley. She writes, "What's going to happen? Will everything be okay? What can I do?" In these days, we find ourselves too often stuck with these questions on repeat. What's going to happen? Will everything be okay? What can I do? We grasp at signs and markers, articles of news and analysis, Facebook memes, and forwarded emails as if the new zodiac capable of forecasting all that life may yet bring our way, as if we could prepare, as if life had ever made any promises of making sense or turning out the way we had thought. As if we're not actors in this still unfolding story. For this hour, we surrender to the mystery, to release ourselves from the needing to know, the yearning to have it all figured out, and also the burden of believing we either have all the control or none. Here, in our song and silence, our stories and our sharing, we make space for a new breath, a new healing, a new possibility to take root. That is courage, forged in the fire of our coming together and felt in the spirit that comes alive in this act of faith, that we believe still a new world is possible and that we are creating it already, here and now. And now let us pause for a moment of reflection, followed by our reflective music. Thank you once again, Brian and choir, for beautiful music. The January day after the 47th President of the United States was inaugurated, the Right Reverend Marianne Edgar Booty, the Episcopal Bishop of Washington, delivered the traditional inaugural sermon at Washington Cathedral. At the end of her sermon, she met the eyes of the new president and spoke directly to him. She urged him to have mercy on those in America, particularly immigrants and members of the LGBTQ community, to recognize that fear dominated the lives of many people in this country at this time. The Reverend Booty concluded her sermon with these words: "May God grant us all the strength and courage to honor the dignity of every human being, speak the truth in love, and walk humbly with one another and our God. This we do for the good of all the people of this nation and the world." Now, Reverend Booty's message was met with acclamation from many parts of this country. She was thanked for her words, for her courage in speaking truth to the face of power sitting right before her. She became an instant celebrity. Her face was seen in media everywhere. She was quoted in numerous articles, editorials, and yes, even in sermons. And Bishop Booty was indeed courageous, but her action should not stop with adulation. Rather, it should inspire us to act. And indeed, she said as much. Her sermon's closing words gave us our assignment. May God grant us all the strength and courage to honor the dignity of every human being. When one person has the courage to speak truth to the powerful, we as listeners are called not only to hear them and nod our heads in agreement, but to make those words real. Calls to honor a moral imperative do not stop at the pulpit or at the end of a service. They don't end by signing a letter of support for the speaker. We, each of us, must find ways within our communities, within our abilities, to live into that moral imperative as people of faith, as part of this human community. Bishop Booty believes it is a responsibility of religious leaders to address the social and political realities of their time with honesty and with courage. Not to flatter the leaders, but to use the moral authority of their positions to call political and social leaders to account, however uncomfortable that reckoning might be. That responsibility holds especially true for those of us who have a degree of safety, who don't have to live in fear because of our ethnic or gender identity, our immigration status, our financial security. And that kind of privilege is humbling, a reminder that privilege bestows obligation, the responsibility to speak out for those who do not share our privilege, the responsibility to confront harm threatening anyone in our communities. Prophetic voices through the centuries have taken that responsibility seriously, calling leaders to be just, to care for all people, especially for the most vulnerable among us. Ancient Hebrew prophets, Elijah, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Amos, Micah, admonished leaders to turn from their selfish fixations and follow the dictates of their God. Martin Luther called his church to end practices that enrich the corrupt practices of the corrupt clerical systems and impoverished the people. In the Unitarian Universalist tradition, Michael Servetus challenged John Calvin's oppressive theocracy and died a martyr at the stake. In our time, it may not be common for clergy to challenge an American president directly over policy or language, but it is not new. Prophetic voices in all religious traditions have called upon moral authority to remind leaders of the religious precept of human dignity. The Jesuit priest Daniel Berrigan, whose direct action against draft offices during the Vietnam War was criticized by many of those in power, responded to those critics with these words: "Our apologies, good friends, for the fracture of the good order, the burning of paper instead of children, the angering of the orderlies in the front parlor of the charnel house. We could not, so help us God, do otherwise." And no, today we cannot do otherwise. As citizens and as part of a religious tradition rooted in moral and ethical values, rooted in love, we too are called to act with courage, to put our faith into action. Last month, the Reverend Dr. Sophia Betancourt, who is president of the Unitarian Universalist Association, spoke of that moral imperative. She said, "We Unitarian Universalists are people with diverse identities, stories, and experiences, yet we are personally, theologically, and covenantally bound together by the expansive love that has always been the animating center of our faith. Far more powerful than any faction, leader, nation, or creed, it is this fierce love that compels our deepest loyalty and our most courageous action. And," said Reverend Betancourt, "it is this love that moves through and between us, enabling us to nurture wisdom, guidance, courage, and grounding in ourselves and in one another." "But words are not enough," said Reverend Betancourt. She said, "We must respond with action. I encourage you to reach out to your local communities, support organizations that are long established in the fight for justice, and make your voices heard. Together, we can build a future where love and justice reign." Those prophetic voices, whether within our personal religious traditions or in the world at large, are not meant to stand alone with only a thanks or nice job or we needed to hear that in response. Those voices must inspire action through resistance to unjust acts and persistent resistance to efforts to build fear. They must remind us that by working with others, we can together discover new ways to build a better, a more just, a more inclusive world. And we remember we don't do this in isolation. Our role is to join the many hands and hearts also doing this work in our communities and in the world, to do this for the sake of all beings around us. So how then do we work together to resist fear, overcome exclusion, discover new ways to build a more inclusive world? How do we reclaim our faith, restore our trust in democratic systems that have, and not always perfectly, been in place in this country since it was established? How can we come together to resist fear, restore trust, continue to build a more inclusive world? At this time in our history, that hope for unity may seem distant. A time when chaotic acts by the current administration leave us uncertain, fearful for ourselves and the very vulnerable in this country. a time when the desire to exclude drives federal policies that defy this country's historic values of welcome and shelter to those yearning to be free. Policies that directly contradict this faith's traditions, values of equity and justice, of generosity, inclusion, and interdependence. The daily uncertainty that what happens next produces its desired effect. It erodes trust in government and ultimately trust in ourselves. But recognizing the intent behind chaotic policies, the uncertainty is the first step in reclaiming the trust that is being eroded. Uncertainty creates a climate of fear, fear that can impel people to grasp at promises of stability and, yes, even grasp at positive outcomes and security for oneself, even at the cost of stability for others. Today, this climate of fear is our greatest challenge, a challenge that can be met with renewed trust in one's values, trust in the ideals on which this democratic republic was founded, trust in the power of community. Over the past 2 months, we have seen how diverse groups across the country have come together to march, to protest unjust federal actions, to call for a reclamation of values that reflect humane, just, and inclusive policies. Those mass protests make us more aware of the many good people who share those values, who are aware of the power, the possibility of community, the power of working together. Now, perhaps you were one of the marchers. Like many of you, my participation earlier this month was not my first rally, protest, or march, but these events seem to be coming much more frequently these days. And they are meant to inspire our passion for justice, and I think they do. And this is the power of community. As I look over the crowds, I can recognize I am not alone. I see dozens or hundreds or thousands of people bringing our democratic values to the public square. This is what democracy looks like, is a common chant at these rallies. And indeed, it is what democracy looks like. People gathered freely expressing their opinions about governmental actions and asking our elected leaders to hear the voices calling for justice for all. It's what democracy looks like when large numbers of people openly question or oppose a government policy, blatantly in conflict with the values of equity, freedom, and democracy set forth in the Declaration of Independence and the United States Constitution. But what does democracy actually mean? How do we live it here in this country? As envisioned by this nation's founders, our democracy was based on the ancient Greek system of direct participation in society by every citizen. Now this, at the time this country was founded, this was a new, untried social and political system, an intentional move away from the feudalism and caste structure that prevailed in Europe at that time, and against which the immigrants to America had rebelled. Now, those early founders of this country were steeped in progressive Enlightenment thought, but yes, they were still subject to constraints of their 18th century culture. They didn't see any inconsistency at all in limiting their new democracy to those who were male, white, Anglo-Europeans, who were landowners. It took another 150 years for women and African Americans to be included in this country's governance. And as we know, those roles are still not fully realized. One thing about democracy, it is always very, very slow. Yet, we must respond to what is happening today. How can we challenge the chaos and uncertainty of our times to the erosion of values we've always considered to be sacrosanct? As I talked with others over the past few weeks, I've heard several helpful suggestions. First, limit the time you devote to the news. Now, it's important to stay informed of daily events, but sometimes scanning the newspaper or online headlines give you all the essential information you need. Read some historians like Heather Cox Richardson or Timothy Snyder, or responsible reporters doing their best to keep the world informed. Then step away from your electronic device. Go for a walk. Take in the flowering trees beginning to bloom in our neighborhoods. Buy a bunch of fresh daffodils at the market and just celebrate this wonderful spring we are enjoying. Next, find your tribe. Connect with like-minded people who share ideas with each other on ways you can and together make a difference. Your tribe might be this fellowship, your family, your neighbors, your co-volunteers at the food bank. This is the time to rediscover why we as human beings so need community. Third, participate in actions as you are able. You may not be up to standing at a rally for 2 hours. I'm not anymore with my brace on. But you can get together with others to write to elected officials, encouraging them to stand strong and push back at blatant acts aimed at repressing rights guaranteed by the United States Constitution. And while you're writing and maybe enjoying a cup of tea and cookies with your neighbors, take a little more time and write a letter to the editor of your community's newspaper. Heartfelt letters from citizens in newspapers actually reach a very wide audience. Fourth, pay attention to your municipal and school board policies and actions. Attend meetings and see democracy in direct action. And if you really feel daring, run for your school board. These are the elected positions that directly reflect our community's values and are the bedrock of this democracy. Finally, join groups supporting free speech, like the ACLU, or the groups supporting the rights of immigrants or LGBTQ+ people. Since January, I've been working with a coalition supporting our immigrant and refugee neighbors in Thurston County, where I live. Organized by Thurston County's Multicultural Services Center, a small volunteer-run nonprofit, the coalition has brought together more than 21 nonprofits and faith communities to plan how to provide support for immigrant safety. And also, you might hear at the fellowship sponsor a Know Your Rights session. Whoops, I seem to have left mine out. And they pass out those Know Your Rights cards. They're little red cards. And I left a bunch of them on your table in the entryway. And I think it's really important that each one of us is familiar with the rights on those cards. And then we can share them with neighbors and friends, as well as people we know who might be threatened by immigration regulation. We know many, many good people. People like all of those brought together by the Multicultural Services Center, like all of you in this fellowship who have long participated in the essential life-saving work of justice for all people, for justice for this very earth we share. like all of those who challenge attempts to inspire fear by meeting them with faith, with hope, and the strength of community. Each day, we are offered an opportunity to live into that strength. And this is what the Right Reverend Booty and all prophetic voices of the history have asked of us. Let us continue to add our voices to those working for a just, equitable, and loving world. After all, we are called morally by our faith tradition to respond when loud voices around us seek to undermine our trust in the very values and institutions that provide stability, that honor the worth and dignity of each person. We are called to resist fear, to hold on to hope, to trust those values that inform this faith and upon which this country was founded, even if they are being severely threatened. As Unitarian Universalists, we are called to use our human capacity to bring love, goodness, and commitment into our own lives and to share them with those around us. And the rewards are huge. The rewards are connection, shared purpose, expansive love, the knowledge that we are building trust within our communities and within ourselves. I close with these words the Right Reverend Booty offered in January. May the God of many names grant us all the strength and courage to honor the dignity of every human being, speak the truth in love, walk humbly with one another and our God. This we do for the good of all the people of this nation and the world. Amen. And now, I invite you to rise as we join in singing our closing hymn, number 134 in the gray hymnal, Our World is One World.
You may be seated. You may have noticed something different in your order of service, which is a QR code, one of those little square things with the mysterious black and white spaces in it. Do you see it? Is it there? Excellent. That QR code is a link to our accessibility survey. So we invite you to separate sheet. Thank you, Beth, for pointing that out. Separate sheet. It's our link to our accessibility survey, and we would like to invite you to fill it out. If you don't feel comfortable using a QR code for whatever reason, there are paper copies in the foyer for you to fill out. Thank you for participating in that to help us better serve all members of our beloved community. After the service, please stick around. Welcome to enjoy coffee, tea, and treats in the foyer, or you can bring your food and drinks in here to the sanctuary or take them outside to enjoy together. I hope you are able to meet someone new and make a new friend today. And now, our closing words.
Now we'll close our service and extinguish our chalice with these words from the Reverend Angeline Jackson. She writes, "May we remember that trust, like love, grows in small moments, in promises kept and confidences held, in boundaries respected and amends made, in showing up again and again. May we be brave enough to risk trust, patient enough to build it slowly, and gentle with ourselves and others when it breaks. And now, may you go into this day with peace, love, and commitment."
So